What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Imperfect Swing Golf Podcast. Today, I have someone on the show who's more famous than I am by a long shot. But we'll leave that for a bit later in the podcast episode. Abby, thanks so much for joining us. For the people out there, especially I think in the South African space that doesn't know who you are and what you do, maybe just give us a short little intro.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. This is super exciting. A short little intro, I guess I would be a chaotically creative individual who, I don't know, just somehow stumbled into the golf atmosphere. So it's like, welcome me with open arms, but I guess that's how I would call myself. Definitely creative. I'll hang on to that adjective, but any other word, I mean, I'll probably fit into it. So.
And when you that short little intro is, I feel like we kind of very similar in what we do and how we kind of fell into the space. I mean, you played, a high level of golf at a competitive level. Maybe take us through that decision, to play college golf, and how serious was this sport in your life at that point?
Oh yeah, definitely. So it's kind of funny because everyone always asks me how I got involved in golf, and it stemmed from my freshman year in high school because I went to magnet school and I played violin and I absolutely hated it. I mean, I can like turn up to classical music. I love it, but actually playing and dedicating hours to it was just not for me. So I decided, why not pick a sport that you have to dedicate hours to and like never find that perfect rhythm ever. So I started pretty late and I didn't know anything about it. I was kind of thinking, oh, this is just something to put on my resume just for college, all that kind of stuff. And people around me were kind of saying, you have a natural swing. You ever thought about, playing tournaments, all that kind of stuff? And I have to dedicate it to my dad because he is such a golf fanatic. And he was just like, oh my God, money, like, let's like push this. Let's see if we can take this further.
Put on that Tiger Woods hat, and you're like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And I was just like, I didn't know anything about the whole golf world. And so I played my first like serious tournament like sophomore or like freshman year of high school, and I was dreading it. It was a 3-day Miami summer heat, like 97 degrees was like the low, and I'm just like, yo, there's no cut, so I have to play all 3 days. And I just remember, I think my best score was like 97, and I was just like, I'm pretty happy about myself. Like, that's pretty good. And then I get to these like bigger scale tournaments, and there's girls like 12 years old shooting like 72, and they're like crying because they played so bad, and I'm just like, wow, I really missed a putt for 79. I'm pretty happy with that. Like, so then it really came down to me seeing myself practicing so much and then not studying as much, because I mean, I kind of caught that bug of like, oh, I really like this sport. Like, whenever you hit like that perfect shot, you're like, wow, I should go pro. Like, really, like, does the LPGA call me or do I call them? Like,
how does this work?
Yeah, exactly. And so I kind of had like an honest truth with myself, and I was just like kind of swaying away from that idea of maybe I can get recruited, but I always had that internal doubt of, no, you started too late, you're not as good as these other girls. And so it came down to like junior year summer, which is so late in the whole process. I was just kind of, like being like a saleswoman and just like emailing all these coaches and just being like, hi, like, here's my highlight video, like all this kind of stuff, and just playing as many tournaments as I could. If that, like, in Florida, I didn't have like the resources to AJGA and like go across the country. So I was just like, okay, this tournament, I like need to shoot like 74, like all these kind of things. Like, I need to shoot these numbers so I could just have it on my resume. And then one coach from Siena College, he reached out to me because I emailed them, and like, side note, they used my email as like an example of like recruiting, like, oh, like, this is what your email should look like. We should know that you're writing it, not your parents. And I was like, wow, I really thought I was mature then when I was emailing you. And so then I was like, wow, yikes. And so he like reached out to me and basically like took a chance, and he really liked that I was from Florida, and Siena College was actually in upstate New York. And so 180, and I knew I wanted to go out of state. But it was after him giving me that chance of seeing the potential, seeing that I wanted to play at this higher level, was like kind of like the kickstart, and kind of internally gave me confidence and said like, wow, I can do it. Sign that NLI, like send it in, like D1, okay, flex. But obviously I don't brag about that. So it was like a whole journey, and it was so kind of chaotic, as I'll say, where it's like one decision can totally change your whole path. Because in high school I was like, yeah, I'm not going to play golf in college. Can't wait to literally be done with these clubs. Like literally at senior year I was like at states, I was like, oh my god, I cannot wait. And then I was like, oh wait, I'm actually playing college level. And so like competing at that level was just such a different mindset. I felt so cynical and by myself in high school, because I feel like in southern states, especially in America, it's just so competitive, especially with girls.
Yeah.
Like they want to be your friend, but they're not really your friend, and you're just like, wow, I like wanted just to chat with you, and I like we're here for like 5 hours. Like you couldn't just say hi to me. Like okay,
It's very cutthroat. I think, but that's what we've also seen. Like from my experience, it sounds like things in Europe, like the LET. I mean, I know a lot of the players out there, and it's so relaxed. But from what I've heard, like LPGA and that kind of scene is so cutthroat, and it's kind of like you're not really there to make friends. You're just there to kind of just play golf.
yeah, definitely. I feel like there's such like a fine line between that competitiveness and then also that social sport, where
Yeah.
it gets so lost when it dabbles into like it's your paycheck, like this is going to pay rent, like you need to make
Yeah.
the cut.
Exactly.
So of course, being on the media side of it, they're so nice to me because like I'm not competing with them. I'm making them look good, so I've never had like a bad encounter with them. But I have heard where it gets like it's really intense, and especially being a player on that field too. I've definitely felt it. Even in college, it was really a huge detox in my mind, where I was like,
Yeah.
okay, my team actually wants me to do well. It's not like even like your actual team, like you're not like competing against them, all that kind of stuff. And so it was a true mindset shift. And I think that really helped like clarify my whole mindset of like, I hate golf. I'm only doing it because I'm good at it, to like I love golf and I
Yeah.
love the people I like can meet, and like, the whole social aspect. And so it gets lost in the competitive field, I will say, but it's crazy. It's crazy.
The one thing with good golfers is, I mean, at some point we all thought about turning pro, right? Like it's always a thought in the back of our minds. Was that ever like something to consider for you, that you sat down and had the tough talk, and kind of thought about the possibility?
Definitely. Actually, this is a very funny story. It like so chaotic again. I hate using that word. I'm an English major. I should have like had more synonyms, but the summer of after I graduated my senior year, I actually went back for my second year to work at the country club in Brookline. And so they were kind of on the fence of if they wanted to kind of take me under their wing and go this like PGM route. But before I went there, I was thinking, why don't I just go pro? Like, why don't I just try it out? Like I kind of felt lost in like my career goals. I was just like, like I'm putting in some work with golf. Like, why not? Like, this could be fun. And one of the coaches that I used to go to in Doral, I was telling him like, yeah, I'm gonna try to go pro. I'm also gonna go up to the country club and work this summer. It's gonna be great because like I can like play, get all the kind of stuff. And he just shuts me down and he goes, "I'm letting you know right now, you are not gonna play. Like he's like, you think you're gonna play? You're not gonna play at all. You're just gonna be working." And I
Oh,
was like,
okay, yeah.
"No, yeah, yeah." I was like, "No." Like like last year when I worked, like I got to practice so much, and then when I came back, he was so right. Like I was working like so much, and I was just like, I barely picked up my putter. And the only time I would actually play like an ounce of golf would be like if I was coaching the junior camps, and I would like swing one club, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
you
great,
get
like
to
that's awesome.
demonstrate.
Yeah, literally. I was just like the cool hip coach that's like posing with the golf club, and I'm like, that was a total shank, but like, okay.
It went further than what they'll hit it, so it's okay.
Exactly, exactly. But yeah, that thought was always kind of sprinkled in my head, but I think because I was still on that fence of mindset of, do I really like golf because I love the sport, or do I like it just because I'm good at it and it's like a safety blanket to do
Mm.
something? And that's like such a privilege of me to say, to be like, yeah, I'm good, but I just like don't want to do it. And I don't want to sound like those people being like, oh yeah, I could have gone pro. Like I could have gone pro. Like not at all, but it's like it was there and it still is. I'm like young, so it's like it still is, but it's like I think what I'm doing now helps my voice and storytelling further than just on the golf course.
Yeah, I mean, how did you get into? It's a funny thing, like being in the golf playing atmosphere, and you obviously, I mean, people our age are fairly, social media savvy, right? So it's not like too far off to go from playing to some sort of media role as long as you were like active on social media. But for you, how did this kind of fall into place? Was it ever like did you ever do any shadowing, of a media role, or did you just kind of straight on fall into it kind of chaotically? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, like honestly, I will quote you. Like I really did fall under chaotically because it was after the summer season last year. I really kind of I always have like these mental breakdowns, like what am I doing with my life like everyone does. And so I kind of like looked at my parents. We were literally eating pizza and I had this like whole conversation and just saying like, I really want to use my voice. Like I know I want to be in media with golf because I truly never felt so connected or relating to
Mm,
anyone in the women's golf industry. I mean, and of course, like I'm an Asian golfer, and like you would think I would have like this connection, but there was just something missing that I felt. I was like, why haven't I seen that? And my parents were kind of like, well, why don't you do that? Like, why don't you
yeah,
just, use your own voice and it'll show. And I was just like, okay, my parents are just being supportive, like whatever, like I'll just eat like my pizza.
parents being parents.
Exactly. And like I love how supportive they are, but I'm just like, okay, like me being like a self-critic, I'm like, okay, now, like we're not doing that. And so it was really like kind of like a Google search where I basically typed in like media women's golf like positions, and it like showed me like LPGA EPSON. Like this feels so like the 1960s. Like I need a job. Like look at the newspaper.
Yeah,
Seriously, but that's kind of how it happened, and I didn't have any experience with it, and I actually did use kind of like TikTok and my past college course experience to kind of craft my own portfolio. And I've always been into photography and just kind of documenting and filming whatever is around me. And they took a chance on me, like a creative chance on me, because they were like, well, we have no media coverage really on EPSON, which is so
yeah.
sad. And so they were saying, why don't you like step in and be the videographer? And I was more comfortable with photography, but of course in like golf photography, it's like super stellar, like so professional. I'm like, oh, I'm used to like, taking it with my iPhone and editing
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It looks aesthetic.
I will say, I will say that the photography, especially like sports photography, and at the level of golf, because in all honesty, it's such a gate-kept community because of gear. Like to get good images on a golf course at a pro level, it's all in the gear. Like everyone will say, "Oh no, it's not the gear," but in all honesty, like it's the gear because you obviously can't get in someone's way, right? Like you need to be far away so that you're not
You
interrupting the
need like a
flow.
huge telescope lens. Like,
Exactly. Exactly. So I feel like that's why, it's that's why you see the same people for so long and it's the same old folk, like because it's based on what you, and I mean it doesn't help that the lens is like 1,000 call it $10,000. That it doesn't
yeah,
really help
they're
anyone.
pricey. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And so I mean, I'm kind of like blessed that they told me to be the videographer, because
Mm.
I actually get to be like so close and like so personal with the players that it really does highlight what I wanted to do with golf, especially with women's golf, because ever since I started, like, I have players that come up to me and they're like, we've like never seen this. It's like so fun. Like, thank you
Yeah.
for like shining this light. They're like, it's like never been done. And I was like, well, I was like, that's why they hired me. I was like, guys, that's my job. I was like, don't give me the praise.
Standard
Like, I'm just glad.
procedure.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm just glad I'm doing a good job. No one's yelling at me. I'm not getting fired for like something I posted. So, but yeah, it was like that whole perspective of just like going into media from like a golfer standpoint. It's just I've
Yeah.
always seen a cool lens with men's golf, and like so cool, so editorial, where I was like, for women, like you get maybe like the craziest thing would be like a smile and a peace sign on like a
Yeah.
photo, and you're like, it's cute and I love it, it's great, but it's like, why don't we have that same kind of cool mist over women's golf? And
Yeah.
it's like so elegant to see too, where it's like you could totally twist the narrative and just have this own entity for it rather than them competing with men's golf. So that's why I was like, let me see what I can do in here. Let's dabble in.
I mean, it always helps the fact that you are a golfer, right? So you know and when you do kind of create your own content for yourself, you know which angles you like, which angles you don't like, and I suppose like there's always this obviously you can't photograph women and men the exact same way. There's obviously different ways to capture the best out of either side. So I suppose that kind of also made you feel a bit more comfortable in a sense, coming from that place of being a player and then kind of capturing players now.
Yeah, so the first tournament I had, I was really swimming with the Sharks. They were like, "Can you come out for 2 weeks for Utah and Garden City?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like, there's probably going to be someone on site to like, train me and all that kind of stuff. And I get there, they're like, "Sorry, we're so sorry, we're not going to be there." And then so it was me as the media person that's like attached to EPSON. I'm not even hired. I'm like basically like an intern, like just like scurrying around. And they hired like another photographer, so I was just like kind of vibing with him. But I think because I'm so used to being on property for tournaments, I really didn't feel out of place. I really
Yeah,
kind of drove on and I was like, okay, like I need a golf cart, I need to do this. I was very self-sufficient, but still so lost. Like I was like, can I go on the green and film them? Like there's no roped areas. So like, can I do this? Like, I don't know. And so it was actually funny because I went to the range to get just some like basic swing videos. And the first girl I saw, actually, I played with her in regionals in high school. And I was just like, oh my God. I was like, hi. And she was like, hey. It was like, it's like golf is such a small world like that. So
yeah,
that definitely eased myself into that whole environment. And because I knew that whole golf background, it's like, I know, especially practice rounds, pro-ams, I know I can like pretty much invade their privacy, like get in
yeah,
their
yeah,
face, and like it helps when you're nice, friendly, and of course I'm like a girl and their age too, so they're not as creeped out. I
yeah.
hate to say it, but they're definitely not as creeped out. It's more conversational. And so like when I was there, it was just so I was like, wow, I can either sink or swim right now. Like I just need to do my job. I need to get on property. I just need to do what I can do. And it was funny because our photographer, when I was posting these swing videos, he was like, "Oh my God, you did down the line videos. Like they're great." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah, I was literally like, "What are you talking about?" And he calls me and he's like, "You have no idea, like there's like so many like bad angles or like unflattering angles that people do for women's golf that like it's just like you don't see
Yeah.
the ball go down the line on the range." And I was so like shocked when he told me that. I was like, because of course I'm like dumb and I'm just a golfer, so I was like, that's all I know. That's the angle all I know.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I was doing it that angle actually because I was shadowing one of the golf coaches at the country club, and he would always just hold it right by his torso, and like that's
Yeah.
how he would just get the swing video. And I was like, well, that's how you get a good swing video. And then yeah, so it does help being in the whole, it helps being from a golf atmosphere and knowing you know, the little details as well when you want to kind of, you know, like where do they put their tea in their hair, or like what kind of glove are they wearing. It's like little things other than just the stock that I'm a woman golfer, this is my
Yeah.
swing, you know, like the personality behind the player. So I hope I capture that, and there's still more to be captured, but it does help being in the golf atmosphere.
A- And are you also posting on social, or is there someone else doing that and you kind of just capturing the content?
Oh my gosh, so it's so this is also chaotic. What Before EPSON became the EPSON Tour, when it was like Symmetra,
Symmetra.
they only had a one person for the whole media, for interviews, photos, and videos. Like you tell people that now, they're just like, what? I have a whole team just for like color scheming. And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so when they were kind of, that's how I was trained, with being just video of shooting it and editing it and then
Mm.
posting it, uploading the files, and kind of doing like that administrative work as well. So they definitely emphasize like time management. Like, are you good with time management? And I was like, oh yeah, of course. Like every artist, like of course, is like not like the best at time management. So it really like kind of got me to like, you know, pull my own weight and get more managerial with myself, of being like, okay, we need to get this, we got to post this,
Yeah.
this is the content we have to do. And so every video post that you see is like shot by me, edited by me, and the caption is from me, and the tags and like the promotions, like, and it's not just Instagram, it'll be like Instagram, Twitter, and
Twitter.
Facebook, and you're just,
Yeah.
who uses Facebook? Like, you're like, okay. But we have a good support system on Facebook, so
It's all the
it's not
parents,
neglected.
all the player parents
Oh,
and
of course.
family.
They're so nice. They're so sweet. Like, even when I'm on site, they'll come up to me and they're like, love that video you did. It's so good. And I'm like, oh my God, thanks.
But and that's the thing some people don't understand, like especially, I'm kind of in that same boat of, I was, at a point where I was doing everything. So I'd have the tournament social media account, and then I'd shoot the interviews, shoot the drone shots, get some pictures, upload, and then it's like, it's so fast paced because you're trying to give, especially when it's a tour that's not being televised, you're trying to like give that vibe of like oh, this is kind of minute to minute update vibe. And like, people don't understand how intense that is. It's like, oh, I was kind of editing this like late last night while you were sleeping, but no biggie. It's just kind of,
Oh my gosh. Yes. Wait, I have a funny story. So I was hanging out with, we were getting some content, but I was hanging out with two of the players, and they were talking to me with like the series that I do with Play with the Pro, and they were like, I love those
yeah,
videos. And then they were like saying like, how late do you go to bed? And I was like, guys, I was like, I edit that video. I was like, I shoot that video that day. I was like, and I edit and I don't go to sleep maybe till 2 a.m. I was like, that's like on a good day. I was like, and then I
yeah,
post it. I wake up at 6 a.m. and I'm posting it. And they're like, that's crazy. And I was like, yeah, you guys, I was like, well, you guys are grinding all day. Like, totally understand that. I was like, but I was like, when it's like
I'm
the
also
first day of the
grinding all
tournament,
day.
yeah, I'm grinding, but I'm like, of course, it's like so fun though. Like, I feel like if you love what you do, like you really
Yeah,
don't feel it until like it's my off week and I'm like sleeping for like 12 hours. I'm like, why am I so tired? I'm like, oh, maybe it's because of that.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's crazy, 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 but it's like very fast paced, like you
yeah.
said.
With, now that I've got the idea that you also do some posting, I suppose this is where we kind of tap into your other life, that you don't really kind of put out there. Like, I wouldn't know unless like I went on your website and did the research for
Yeah.
this podcast. Maybe tell us about your other life, the other account that you run, that you kind of put a bit of yourself into.
So my other life, I guess. I mean, how many? I have so many. Just kidding. I'm assuming you mean my TikTok life.
Yeah.
So it all happened from quarantine. I guess we could start from the birth of that life. So it happened during quarantine, just like how everyone downloaded TikTok. And I actually had it a little before that, just because I would honestly scroll on Twitter and I was like, oh my God, all these funny videos are from TikTok. Like I want to laugh. Like what's this app? And like it was having mixed reviews, you know, when everyone was like, don't get TikTok, like it's so lame, like all that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
was like, you know what, I am. So I'm gonna download TikTok. So I just had it and I didn't post anything. And then quarantine COVID hit and I was kind of dabbling back into like art because I really swayed away from it and just, you know, it was just something to do. Like everyone's so bored, you just obviously do anything. So I was just drawing and the one video that I knew went viral, I had actually wait, sorry. This is oh my God, I'm gonna sound so like oh my God, I went viral. But like I actually had a video go viral before. Oh my God, this is so bad. Because I like posted like the recipe of like vegan donuts. I made vegan donuts and like that one like went viral. I know. So that
Perfect
one went
timing.
viral. Right. So like later on, I was just like, this is before anyone really knew TikTok, like when you had like a niche or like the algorithm, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So I'm posting just like as if it's like an Instagram, like I'm just posting random stuff. So I posted this one video. I was on Snapchat and I asked my friends, I was like, send me 3 random words and I'll make a design, like I'll make a drawing out of it. And so I was like, that's fun. Like, and I just made a TikTok of it because I was like, oh, that's like a fun TikTok. And as soon as I posted that, like everyone was like, oh my God, are your commissions open? Like, where are you based? Like, are you a tattoo artist? Can I get this tattooed? And I'm just like, what do any of those words mean? Like, I was just so like dumbfounded. I was like, what is going on? Like, why do these people think I'm a tattoo artist? And so, and then they would find, because my TikTok was linked to like my personal account. So then they would find my personal account and they're like just DMing me and like asking me. And I'm like, oh my God, no. I was like, this is not happening. And so it really just started off kind of like that. And it wasn't, I don't know when it happened, but there was a certain point throughout my TikTok postings where my niche kind of became, I would do these like really intricate and like symbolic designs for basic artists, like of their songs. So any song that you want, I would make a design and people loved it because they were like, it's not cliche, it's not like a basic illustration, like you're actually researching the lyrics and then finding meaning and then making a design. And I was like, yeah guys, like I'm like doing a whole research paper on the designs basically. And so that really kind of funneled throughout. It's so bad because I like truly neglect it, even though I have like such a platform on that. Like it's such like a little hidden
How many
talent, I want
followers
to say.
again?
Oh my God, no, it's like literally gone down, but it's like it's in the 600,000 range. Like we'll just say that. We'll just say
Nothing
that.
too hectic.
Nothing's too. Like whatever. Like, no, I'm kidding. But so I like definitely neglect it, but it's always I've had it since like my senior year of college, and it kind of in like wavelengths it would go like there would be times where it was like really popping off, like every video I posted was just like great engagement, and then I would just like literally disappear for like a month, like, and people out here are like posting 3 videos a day. I'll like maybe post a video like a month, and if it's like not like a sponsored ad, like I'm like, oh, okay. It's so bad. It's so bad. But yeah, definitely that. I think with like art and finding symbolism and always like kind of researching and being curious definitely kind of helped dabbled into like why why aren't people kind of taking that time for golf media, like all that kind of stuff and that creative lens. So that kind of kickstarted my thinking and my adult vision of like, what do I want to do with my career? Like, how am I going to make myself because of course everyone loves being like a girl boss. Like I was truly being a girl boss with my TikTok, and like I would just like media, like I would make my TikTok videos and then I would stay up late till like 1 a.m. like designing new ones and then filming it. And then I also had like a website and then you can like buy the stuff, and it's just like I'm like, oh my God, taxes, like no one told me about that. Like I don't know anything about that. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry, I filed my taxes. Like
Get the IRS coming after you after this.
yeah, literally. they're coming after me and they want a tattoo design. Like, I'm just like, but yeah, I was just, it was like really like diving into adulthood with that too. And so I was like, you know what, maybe like getting a more stable job, like paycheck. Cause I would also, if I wasn't working, I wasn't getting paid. And of course, I feel like
Mm.
that's everything, but it's more like, I think a lot of my friends had a hard time grasping that where,
So I have a question. So being in the media space, right? I mean, diversity and being, inclusive is like a very important topic, especially within our generation, because we kind of righting the wrongs of the past in a way and kind of correcting, what's been done. For you, I mean, golf is a white sport, right? Like we can't look past it. It's when you're watching an event and you're seeing the crowd. It's like 99% white. For you, how does it feel to kind of now have that place and like you had that conversation with your parents, have that voice now to kind of be that representative for your community?
yeah, I think it's like such a privilege that I'm in like the inside of the ropes with that because,
Yeah,
I feel like when the lens is crafted for more predominantly white golf atmosphere, it really loses the narrative and personality of all the other nationalities. And like with EPSON, we have like 35 nationalities, I think, on our tour. Like it's like so many people, and it's like how does that filter with like one voice who's trying to capture it through one lens? So
yeah,
our photographer does a great job. He has such a great relationship with most of the players, and it's like we really try to just diversify, especially with content. And it's not like a conscious thing that like I'm having where I'm like, oh, I need to get,
mm-hmm.
like 5 different nationalities on the Instagram. Like it's really like a humanity approach where I'm just talking to them, I'm just having a conversation, and it's like golf is such a lonely sport, especially at a competitive level where the girls on the range aren't just going to turn their back and like start chatting with you. Like they're
Yeah,
like go for an hour on the range and work on their swing. Like they're like FaceTiming their coaches like on the phone and their caddies are holding it. And I'm like, wow, this is so intense. I don't want to get a swing video. I'm going to interrupt something. But again, it's like I think people just have that like prejudgmental kind of like don't judge a book by its cover. Like they're definitely like there's some where of course like I myself probably have like a resting bitch face, so it's like I don't look super inviting to like come up to, but I mean, it's all until you say hello or like you say hi.
yeah,
And I think when it comes to also because we didn't have our writer on site. So when I was, whipping around all 18 holes, like following the leaders and like getting like those birdie highlights, I would just get a random text being like, "Hey, can you get some interview sound from so and so and so and so?" And so like I'm like zooming in and out, and I'm just like talking to them, but he would give me the privilege of kind of making up my own questions and all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. So it really does help craft the writing as well in a better light and more compassion towards these players rather than like what was your score, how did you do. And
yeah,
definitely I think that does play a fact. I mean, of course, like whoever shoots the lowest wins, but I love the mindset and psychology of it. And I think if you just have one predominantly white, probably like male voice just always behind the camera and crafting it, it's like how do you get the authenticity from around it? So I love that I'm a part of it, and I don't feel like I stick out like a sore thumb. I probably do, but I'm just like, oh, I'm getting content, like I'm talking to these people, it's great. So it's definitely a major comfort, and like representing especially like the Asian community. It's like there's
yeah.
so many Asian golfers. Like it's like huge. It's huge. And it's like, why don't we have more behind the scenes? And so I could do my Samaritan part of the media to do that.
It's such a funny thing. It's like you don't really you don't really think about it too much until you're in the position and you're like, wow, like you feel like you mentioned, you don't feel like you stick out, but at the same time you kind of know that you do in a different way. Like you just don't have that extreme comfort level, right? Like it took me such a long time to, and it's so easy for it to feel like imposter syndrome at the same time. You're like, do I belong here? And but you kind of have to fight that little voice that's telling you like, oh no, you're feeling out of place now. You're feeling out of place. But meanwhile, it's actually just the environment that's not really comfortable yet. And once you break that barrier of stop questioning yourself and start looking at how you can, like you mentioned, put your own spin and do your own storytelling within that, it kind of starts changing that feeling around you.
Yeah, definitely. And then you can totally feel it with the environment as well. I mean, just like the minor thing of just me being a girl behind the lens, it
Yeah.
like the overwhelming compliments that I get because of that, like it's just insane. Like the girls come up to me and they're just like, you have no idea how amazing it is to have
Yeah.
you. Like it's just incredible. And I'm just like, it's like so simple like that, but then it's just like, why haven't we been doing that? And it's also like, what came first, like the chicken or the egg? Because it's like, how do you get more girls in media? But then it's also the environment that it's been in, so it can be very intimidating and just very unwelcoming at times.
Yeah.
um, Not from personal experience, but like what I've seen. And so it's like just so hard to balance that of like, how do you get more girls in media? How do you get more inclusivity? And it's like, well, then how do we change this? It's like,
But it comes back to almost that like it's kind of gate kept because like you mentioned, golf is such a small world. Like once someone is super comfortable and they feel like they're obviously at that level for such a long time, for anyone to be introduced into that sphere, it's so the pressure's on, right? Because you have to perform or else there's always some older guy that can just come in and replace you like within a snap of their fingers,
yeah,
like literally. So
no,
you as that
literally.
new, yeah, you literally there, and you kind of have to, like you mentioned, you kind of thrown in the deep end and you're forced to perform, which is kind of I suppose, just because it is professional level sports, but at the same time, it's almost like there's a reason why there's 50-year-olds telling stories about 17-year-old golfers coming onto the scene. Like, surely we need to look at that differently and see how we, because they'll, like you mentioned, they'll ask the same questions that they asked the player 15 years ago. Like, it gets a bit stale after a while. And there's no disrespect, but I mean, I've experienced it personally where it's like you step in, you perform whatever you're there to perform, your duty for that week, and you get funny looks just because you're a younger person who doesn't look like them.
Oh, I can't tell you how many times when I started, I would have to go through security for parking, and I would wind down my window, and they were like, "Hi, the players are over there."
I
I'm
mean,
like,
that's a
"Oh,
nice compliment, though.
it's a great compliment." And I remember we had this like huge volunteer like media tent, and I'm walking in to get like food because I'm like starving. It's like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
2 p.m. and I can't eat anything. So I'm like getting something, and like the volunteer chair, she's like, "Hi, are you looking for the players lounge?" And I was like, "Oh no." I was like, "No, this is where I belong." I was like, "This is
Yeah.
me." She was like, "I'm so sorry." She's like, "You're looking like you like." She's like, "You're young, you're fit, like you're cute." She's like, "I thought you'd be a player." I was like, "No." I was like, "Thank you though." But no. And
I'll
so,
bank the compliment, though.
oh yeah. So the amount of comments I get from that, especially there was one time I was going to try to like make a content of like me playing with one of the players. So I brought my clubs out on the golf cart and I'm like just zooming around. And like so many people thought I was a player. Like I would come up to one of the girls and they were like, "Oh my God, I was seeing you like zoom around and I thought like, who is this girl? Like, why does she get to ride in a cart and we all have to walk for our practice round?" I was like, "No, guys." I was like, "It's just me. It's just Abby Media."
Just the media goal. No, no worries.
Yeah, but they do it's so like crazy to me that like it's like that seeing young people in media for golf is like so foreign. Like,
Exactly.
like it like, and I think because I maybe it's because golf you can just play for like years on end. You don't
Yeah.
There's no like physical ability. That's definitely fine. But I feel like ever since probably COVID, it's grown so much and has like catered more to the younger generation, where it's like I think we're probably that like wavelength of like, you know, icons of like, oh yeah, we started that trend.
Exactly. I
I'm
mean,
totally kidding, but like, yeah.
I, I've been doing this for, it feels like forever, but it's, I think, like 4 years now. And like, it's nice in a way, it's nice to see some of the things you kind of start become or be replicated somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or even if it's like a small thing of like the walking gimbal shot, kind of that's become so normalized now. And knowing that you kind of got in on it a bit early always kind of gives it that nice, I'm on the right track, like I'm not clueless.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like it's like very comforting when I guess your vision and creativity is reciprocated so well. Like, and
Yeah.
people are like, yeah, that is cool. But then I feel like this is gonna like sound like so bad, but I feel like in golf, it lacks that creativity
Yeah,
off the
no, it
golf
really
course
does.
around the whole sphere. So it's like it's it takes so much trust and pitching of being like, no, this is a good idea. Like, I'll
Yeah.
show you it's a good idea. And it's not until they see it and that it gets like great rave reviews that they'll be like, okay, we'll try it. So it's like so tough, but I love working hard, but like I don't know how hard it's gonna work me. But it's like I feel like if you're just passionate enough for it, that it's just we're on the right track, you know, like we're doing good. We're doing good.
And speaking of, working hard, you've been in this position for a bit now, to close off on this, where do you see yourself? Like, I don't want to be cliche and say, oh, the 5 year, oh, where do you want to be in 5 years? But let's say, you know, beyond EPSON, like what's your um ideal kind of position that you'd like to occupy at some stage? Call it like because right now you kind of, in the beginning phases of this career. Let's say
Mhm.
when you're mid-level, where would you want to be and kind of what would you want to be doing?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I have like a dream job. Dream goal is like to be like a creative director for like one of like a great like golf company or even bigger than that, you know. I just, you know, so many ideas. But I think that mid-level would definitely be um to get more like on camera, like hosting more and then
Hmm.
really talking to players and just kind of highlighting their stories and narratives past the scorecard. I feel like right now when I ask questions, it's all about what happened throughout your
Score.
round today. Exactly. What was the score? And it's like I made like a fun video where I was like, "Oh, what's your go-to snack on the course?" And like that one, the minute you sprinkle in a little bit personality and like joking, like it's just so widely received. Like everyone was like talking about it, and I was like in the corner of like the clubhouse, and I heard like all the girls like, "Oh my god, they made this video! It's so good, like so funny." And I'm just like, "Oh my god, that was me!" Like with my AirPods in, like, "Oh my god, that was me." But definitely more, I would love to be more on camera and just kind of hosting and being that like comforting bridge towards like, you know, golf and just like a broader culture and society where it's not just so golf focused. And I feel like kind of like I always use this analogy, like almost like you're flipping through a magazine. It's like it's not all just going to be a golf swing. Like you're going
Yeah.
to get more like apparel, or you're going to see like food places or the location of what to do in the local community. So I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but like I'm just going to keep doing my thing.
You literally sound like so much like what I went through. Like, I was strictly behind camera for such a long time, and then I was like,
Mhm.
why not just get in front of the camera? I mean, it's awkward 100% of the time, don't get me wrong. um but it's kind of like you live with it, and you just, I mean, it's in a way it helps with that insecurity, because you just have to be okay with whatever you're doing, what you look like, how
Right.
what you sound like. And especially when you're editing it yourself, you're just like, I already sound like that, but okay, it's gonna have to work. I can't edit, I can't change that. um
Exactly. Exactly.
but it I think what really helps you in that journey is that you play golf, so you can always relate on a deeper level with the players. And I think that's what's given me this edge. And so many players and people that I've worked with in the past will always say it's so game changing to have that. I can understand the lingo beyond, just the standard, oh, I played badly today. But you can be like, oh, your swing was a bit out of sorts. You were maybe coming over
Yeah.
the top or something like that. Something small that
Right.
relates to them deeper than just, oh, you played badly. What are you going to do to improve tomorrow? Where now it's like, your swing was a bit out. What are you going to work on the range? Why are you doing this drill? Why are you doing that drill?
Yeah, exactly.
So that always is in our favor, being creators in our own sport. That there's your comfort that you need, that you'll be on camera like fairly soon. But do it out of your own as well. I mean, while you're there, like make your own content with players, and I mean,
Oh
post it.
yeah, I
And
was yeah. So the previous manager on the EPSON Tour media, he kind of was pushing me towards that too, because I
yeah,
would do the winners interview, and so the first interviews I would cut out my voice and I would just put the question.
oh yeah,
And so but he was like, hey, why don't you leave your voice in? He's like, because he's like, we like to hear your voice, gives like someone who's behind the screens, like all that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, okay. And so I did, and it does flow a lot better. It's like more
yeah,
conversational, and I love it. But I was just like, really? I was like, I don't think they want to like know about me. I was like, this is the winner. I'm like, I would just skip past my voice. Um, but yeah, I definitely agree with like the knowing the golf lingo terminology, and it's not like you're saying it as if you just did like your Quizlet textbook
like
research and like
we
being
live that life for a bit. Like
exactly.
we know everything. We know the struggles. We know what goes through your
Yeah,
mind.
yeah.
Like,
Like I remember I was watching one girl, like she was leading and I was just following her on the front nine because I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna get a birdie, she's gonna take the lead, like this is great. Every single putt burning the edge. And I was like, you're kidding. I was like, and that definitely like I'm like thinking like that's just gotta mess with you like psychologically,
yeah,
like mentally, like because especially making the turn and like I think she got like 3 birdies on the back nine, and I was like, I didn't interview her, but like that would have been my question. Like, all these putts burning, like that must have dropped your confidence in putting. And like,
yeah,
how do you find out to make like 3 on the back nine?
exactly.
But yeah, it's like it is comforting to know like you can just casually talk about golf and not be lost, and you actually know the rules, and like the behind the scenes
You also
announcing.
know what not to ask. You don't.
Exactly. Yes. Oh my God. Exactly. Like there's just questions like you're like, why would you ask that? Like, especially like maybe when the tournament's still going on, you're like, well, great. Now they're gonna have that in their head and like you're
Yeah,
gonna make them miss the cut. Like because you asked that
exactly,
question.
exactly.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'll just be like kind of I feel like a media liaison sometimes if I'm just like zooming around trying to get some coverage, and I'll just be talking to like the parents or the spectators. And so I think when they see like my cart, it has like this big like neon like highlighter media sign, they're like automatically thinking I just like don't know anything about golf until I'm just like talking to them, and I'm like, oh, how's she doing? And they're like, oh, she missed her birdie. And I was like, well, I was like, there's a par five that's like totally gettable for two. I was like, and I'm like talking to them, and then they just kind of pause and they're like, did you play
Ah, she
golf?
knows.
Like, you know golf? And I'm like, yeah, I played golf. And they're like, that's amazing. I'm like,
But you see, that's kind of the narrative we're breaking now. It's like we in the game beyond just here to do our job. Like we live through our
yeah,
what we do. Like we completely capable of being relatable. It's not just like that's exactly
it's
the
not like, yeah, yeah. It's like hard to describe. It's not like you're like a art appreciator where you can't draw. Like it's
exactly.
more you're like I totally get you, and it's great for us because it's great for the players as well because it's like how we craft the content. It's not gonna make them unflattering. It's not
Yeah,
gonna like I'm not gonna edit it in a way where they sound stupid or like you can't be taken seriously. It's like no, like I get your voice, and then you're also folding in your own narrative and voice and tone to kind of make it your own. Like, so when you see it, you're like, oh, I knew that, like, that was edited by her. Like, I knew that was edited by him.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny. So it's great. I love it. I've loved it so far. Like, I'm going into like my 3-week traveling stretch next week. So I don't know, talk to me then. But it's so fun. It's like you're just like on a high like all the time because they go so fast too, especially with the tournament days. There'll be days where, especially like the first day, I'm there like before the first tee time. And of course there's girls earlier warming up, but like I'm there before the first tee time, and then if there's like a rain delay, I don't leave until like 9 p.m. and I'm just like
First
okay.
in, last out.
Yeah. And it's funny because of course everyone hates rain delays, and I'm like, oh no, rain delays. But like when it's a rain delay, I'm like editing and I'm like,
exactly.
I can get started, I can get all this stuff done. But it's fun. It's fun. I'm having the time of my life.
Yeah. I think it's like a dream. It is a dream job because we're so close to, you know, almost being pro golfers in a way. Like we're living a different life. It's like living the tour life without having to hit the ball and have that stress of a 5-footer putt.
Oh yeah. Totally. I don't know who I told, but I was like, you know, it's like going to a golf tournament, but I'm not playing golf. It's great. Like I actually, so when I was younger, I would never remember any golf course I played. I don't know if it was like a fight or flight system of just being so like anxious, scared of playing in a golf tournament. I would never remember any hole. Like my dad would talk to me and be like, yeah, you know that like hole 14 when you hit that drive, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. I'm like,
I've forgotten about it already.
Yes. I'm like, I'm just dreading the next day. I'm like, I can't even believe I made the cut. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it was bad like that. It's so now when I go, because I have to just cover all the footage and everything, it's like I remember where the porta potties are. I remember where like the score runner is, like all that kind of stuff. I know like the little details, and I don't know if it's like healing my like inner junior golfer, but I just, the content like I like to get, it's kind of glamorizing and making it fun of the grind, where it's like, I know, especially when you are grinding, it's so hard to like stay positive, especially if you don't have like a good stretch of playing or like practice. And so I always try to get that fun, because I'm like, it is fun. I'm like, you have to remember it is fun. You guys love this sport. Like, you know, like you love it. I don't know if you're brainwashing yourself, but you love it. Like
you just there on the outside and you're like, yeah, you know, it will be better the next day. It will be better.
I'm like, it's funny. It trickles into like us knowing golf too. It's like if I take a video of a girl swing and it's like, and I know it's like a bad swing, she's like not saying anything, and I look at her and I was like, girl, that was a bad swing. Like I'm deleting that. I literally say that. I'm deleting that. Like, good, let's hit another one.
Let's let's hit another one.
And then they'll hit one and they're like, that was so much better. I was like, yeah, I'll tag you. I was like, I'll tag you with that. But like, see, like if you don't know golf, you're just gonna think like that's their swing. Like that was the swing.
She like hits it thin or chunks it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's going on Instagram right now.
Right. It's way too good.
And you know, it's actually quite nice to, you know, chat to someone who does what I do, because it's kind of, you know, on the bigger leagues, there's such a big team, so that no one really, it's so nice, like at some of the bigger events I've been to, where, I mean, it doesn't happen to me, but I'm witnessing like some of my mates who are literally just filming and they give it to an editor and it's done. Like they don't have to worry about it at all. I'm like, that must be quite nice.
It must be so nice. I know, I remember like how you said, like when you messaged me and how you were just like, oh, point and shoot and like editing and all that kind of stuff. It's like, it'll only make you better. And I totally think that, especially it makes you really refine, like, what do you want to shoot? What don't you want to shoot? What's the message and subject you're trying to get out of it? Because you really can't just be like fooling around, because it's just a pain, because you're like, okay, this is fine now, and then you're editing and you're like, oh my God, you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna like make something out of this. Like, so then you're just like, lesson learned. Like
but you know, at the end of the day, like when you do both ends of the spectrum, and also the fact that you post. It's not necessarily the most healthy thing to do in the long term. Like it's just, the typical burnt out creative thing, but it's not really
Yeah.
burnt out. You just get tired to the point of it becomes cumbersome. It's like, oh, I've got to do this and that and that. And you kind of start losing that joy of like, oh, I just need to edit and then someone else can handle it. So that's something like I've started to become more assertive with, is how I kind of take the duty on when I eventually get jobs. But the thing is, like, I'm trying to be more, I'm doing this and this only. And maybe if you pay me well enough, I can do everything, and I justify the pain with a bit of cash. But the
Right.
idea of, I mean, it helps that I've done it all. So I'm kind of capable. I can take on the
Hmm.
load, but I just want to be able
Yeah.
to focus a bit more on the story now than having to know that I must shoot, edit, and come up with a nice, catchy caption and then
Right.
post. Like,
Yeah.
it's a bit too much at some point.
Yeah. I think because I joke around with everyone because I think I am the youngest one on like the whole EPSON staff, and it was so funny
Yeah.
because I'm like, I think the closest, because we're getting another media member, but she's 24, I think, and I'm 23, and so I was like talking to the photographer, and he was like, "You're 23?" He's like, "I'm 27," and I was like, "That's still pretty young for like our media team," and I'm like, I'm literally that. I don't want to say it like a ball of sunshine, but like I'm like that like chaotic energy, like just like it's like 6 a.m. and I'm just like, hey guys, like, and I'm like shotgunning my coffee and just like drinking it. Like, no, I'm not really doing that, but like kind of like that intense energy. And um everyone, like, they come up to me and they're like, you're really entertaining to talk to, and I'm like, thanks. I was like, I don't know if it's from the lack of sleep, I was like, or I'm just like, I'm just, like, I'm just like this person who's like great at conversation. But I think it's because I am young that I could just like, kind of push myself and, kind of disregard my like health and taking care of myself. Because there were times I was like, yo, I gotta go to the like, I need a pee, and like I'm like, oh no, but she's literally on this like birdie stretch. Like, I think I'll just like hold it. I'm like, it's just like not safe for anyone. And I'm like, I gotta like drink water and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really think it's because I'm young. And so I was telling people, I was like, I think it'll hit me. It'll probably hit me. But I was like, I'm not going to think about that now. I was like, I'm just loving it so much. I was like,
No,
I don't
no, for
care.
sure. Like, it's the typical thing of like you building, it's building blocks, right? So you kind of building that solid foundation right now. So I don't think it's like something to be overly concerned about. But yeah, like, I mean, a 3 week stretch is intense. I mean, it does,
We
like,
have
all
a,
the, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of
yeah,
time. It's a lot of time.
we have a 7 week stretch coming up. A 7 week stretch. I literally,
Are
my
you going to
mom
be
did not.
doing, are you going to be doing all 7?
Yeah, I'm doing all 7. So yeah, like, insane, right? I was just like, I was low key withering after those 2 weeks. Like, when I came home, I was like, because it was funny because the manager, he was like, yeah, don't look at your phone, like, don't edit anything until Thursday. And it's like Tuesday morning, and I'm like editing something and like responding to all these emails, and I'm just like, no, like, I'm like, they need to know my answer. So I'm like,
Uh,
but yeah, that 7 week stretch, I mean, because it's my first kind of like swing of like doing a whole tournament season covering of like
yeah,
media. And so like I really don't know what to expect. And I think that's what's kind of been keeping me afloat, of being like, like, I was really thrown in and I like died, like, because it was like 40 miles per hour wind, 30 degrees, like, and I'm in the cart just like dying getting coverage. And then I get to Florida and it's like beautiful. It's like hot maybe, but it's just great. And I was like, wow. I was like, is this how it's gonna be like? So it's kind of that uncertainty that kind of
yeah,
draws me in, where I don't know what it's gonna be like. And you get to see different parts of the country. So I I always have it in like a more optimistic light, but like, talk to me
yeah.
after the season. Like, who knows what
Then,
my thoughts will be.
yeah, I think we'll do a catch up episode after your 7 week
Yeah.
stretch and see how you're doing.
It's like, well, I'm actually not with them anymore. Just kidding. Can you imagine?
So,
Is that brutal?
No, I think you'll be fine. Like you mentioned, you're still young, like you've got it in you.
It's too
I
good.
I did 6 weeks this year. Um
How was that?
and so funny thing, when I shoot like the two co-sanctions on the men's and the two co-sanctions on the ladies here, when I shoot directly for players, so I give them content. So I
Oh, nice.
walk like 36 holes a day, like lengthwise. That's kind of 26,000 steps average a
Yeah.
day. And yeah, I was pretty tired. And then after I did 4 weeks of shooting, and then I did 2 weeks in Thailand caddying. And yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I was done. I was done. Like I needed a lot of sleep. Let's put it that. Like my whoop numbers were bad. Recovery and all of that. Yeah. But I
Oh
mean,
my god.
it in a way it only prepares you and kind of builds you. It's like kind of just reps. It's building reps, building reps. So your
Mhm.
stamina just increases in the long run.
Yeah, I think so too. Because even the last Florida stretch, like using the first two that like I was kind of like training or shadowing in, um, I was really like, oh my god, is this how it's gonna be like every single tournament? Like I'm just like dying, but it was like a fun dying. I don't know like how to like explain like how to describe it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they were all saying they were like, no, those two tournaments they were such an anomaly. Like it's usually not like that. It's more like chill EPSON Tour vibe. And I was like, I don't know. And then it really does train you and just you just get that rep because when I'm like there zooming around, I'm just like, no, we have you like set a standard for yourself. And I
Yeah.
think that's great. And I don't want to lose that because of course I want to just keep making my work better. But there has to be a balance, I would say. And I've gotten that advice from like everyone on the staff. They're like, yeah, like take like they're like you just need to take a day sometimes of just like sleep. They're like,
Chilling.
because we were on the road, you're on the course from like Sunday to Monday, and it's just like insane. And I was just like, yeah, usually I'm like the player where I was like, well, on a smaller scale, I just like show up the day before practice round and then like the 2 day tournament, and then we're good. I go home. I'm like, but now I'm coming like Sunday night. I'm prepping Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it's like then the tournament, and then edit, and like we do it all over again. So definitely taking some rest time and finding that balance is like it's hard in the beginning, I feel like, but I feel like I'll once I get like the workflow, I'll probably, you know, survive.
Yeah. And with that, I guess we'll chat. We'll definitely chat again. And see how you're coping. I mean, it is
This will turn
it's
into like therapy.
golf media 101.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
Support
mean,
group.
it's exciting. It's addictive in a way, but it's exciting nonetheless. Like it's just what you make of it, and I think it's good that you have that approach because it can, like, some people will kind of tell you, "Oh, it's going to be such a drag 7 weeks," but I mean, it's 7 different locations, 7 different weeks to tell different stories, right? Like it's opportunities. You
Yeah,
just
that's
what you make
exactly
of it,
how I
right?
think. Yeah, it's so exciting. I can't wait.
And with that, everyone go add on to the over 500,000 followers
Oh
on
my gosh.
TikTok, and we'll. I mean, the golf vlogs are picking up. They're picking up. It's getting there.
Those are for fun. Those are so like okay, so this is actually funny before we like sign off. So to preface my golf Instagram, it was like technically more of like a business account to be like my
Yeah,
like I locked my personal, all that kind of stuff. And then once I started working and everything, I was like, yo, like I need to kind of just it was almost like a Finsta, but not really. Like I'm just like so unhinged there. There are some vlogs where I'm like, you're like, is this girl okay? Like you're like
that avocado did look a bit dodgy the other day.
oh my god, I was literally like, do not judge. I think it was the filter. It was so good. The avocado toast came out green. It was green. But then also I use that account to if I'm not editing something, kind of use myself as the subject or just kind of just making a fun little video to kind of just keep my mind active. So
Yeah,
it's not like a week off and then I go back to the tournament. I'm like, oh, what do I do? Like, what do I shoot?
yeah.
Like, I don't know what to do. So it's just it's the reps. It's like it's a little practice. But yeah, those are my chaotic vlogs.
I'm looking forward to seeing some not so ripe avocados. Let's put it that way.
Don't worry, they'll be green. They'll be prestige. Don't worry.
And for anyone who needs a tattoo designed, the commissions are open. Get those PayPal accounts ready.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks for coming on, Abby. Appreciate it. We'll be looking out for what you put out with the EPSON Tour. It's obviously exciting to see women's golf growing continuously. Along with the mini tours, I think that's kind of the exciting thing about it all. It's finally getting the attention it needs, really.
Oh yeah. There like those are like where all the warriors come from on the big leagues,
Exactly.
So like why aren't we paying attention to them? But yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was great conversation, great chatting, great laughs, great chaos.